Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor and I help people navigate their ascension process. And today I'm going to do a full moon energy report. This full moon is going to come tomorrow. It's going to be a super moon, which just means it's a little bit closer to the planet, and all the effects that you can expect from any full moon will be a little bit amplified. Generally speaking, a full moon will magnify various aspects of your spiritual awakening process, which is incredibly multidimensional and multifaceted. And the particular astrology associated with the full moon or new moon or whatever, it will sort of highlight various themes within the multi-complex awakening you're going through. So in this video, I'm going to go over 7 different themes that you may or may not be experiencing during this time. Number 1 is you might notice that you are being required to have a bit of a physical experience. Meaning, what I'm talking about is a lot of your life, my life, your life, everyone's life, there's different types of energies or different types of ways you could describe how you're kind of going about things. For example, sometimes it's best to kind of be a little bit meditative and contemplative and wait and kind of sit back and just analyze things. Other times you have a positive energy flow and you're visualizing and you're intending and you almost feel like you're getting these psychic insights. While now there's other times like this one where it's more physical. You've done your waiting and chilling and analyzing, and then you've shot your desire, your arrows of desire out into the ethers, and now it's time to be very physical because we're on a physical plane, and now it's time to kind of get down to business, get down to work. And you might notice that you just have a lot of physical activity going on in your life, decluttering, reorganizing, rebuilding, restructuring. I'm in the process of moving, getting a house ready to sell, that sort of stuff. And during those phases, it's good to honor the demands that are now placed upon your body. Meaning, for what I do is I eat more calories. It's not the time to go on a diet or like do any crazy exercise. It's time to kind of take care of myself and kind of reserve my energy for the tasks at hand, which are more than normal. Number 2 is you might notice that old relationships are starting to, with certain people, starting to conclude, fall away, break away. And this can happen in a variety of different ways. And the reason this happens, and the reason it seems to happen to you guys more frequently than like regular people, is because you're very quickly unraveling yourself. You're very quickly discovering aspects and sort of resolving life themes that you came to explore. You sort of are speeding through the earth test very quickly. And as a result, as these internal changes and shifts go on, oftentimes the physical representations of those issues and themes no longer are relevant, no longer need to be present in your physical reality. And therefore, a lot of the times it's a relationship, because those are very good ways of helping you explore aspects of yourself and consciousness. And again, when you've made the resolution within, then you don't need the relationship anymore. This is not to say you should listen to this and say, oh, wow, I have this awesome relationship, I don't want it to go away. It's not like that. It's already happening for you. You might notice this. It's going to be with ones that you aren't that attached to anyway. It's just a natural falling away. And this just might be coming up at this point. Number 3 is you might notice, especially if you give it some effort, there are new potentials of your ability to explore expanded higher states of consciousness. What I mean is that if you meditate, you might find that you are quite naturally, easily, effortlessly able to tap into stuff that you weren't previously able to do. And it happens very easy, very naturally. It doesn't feel as you imagine it would feel to go into a new state of consciousness. Oh, wow. That sounds so like mystical and wild. When you get to the threshold where you're actually able to do certain things, it seems like it's just so easy. Like, I could have always been doing this. So give it a try, man. Meditate. Do some sort of, look up some cool YouTube meditations or guided visualizations, and you might be surprised at what you're able to accomplish now. Number 4 is you might notice a resurfacing of issues that you've been sort of dealing with and working through over the past few months. And you might notice that they're re-presenting themselves through synchronicity in life events. You just sort of become hip to the patterns. But this time you might notice they have a little bit less of a sting. They're not so shocking and all-encompassing. And there was more distance. Again, there's just not as much of the emotional triggering effect from them. And as a result, you can kind of do one of two things. One of them, you might just get lazy and just ignore them. Say, screw it, man. They're not really affecting my life very much. I'm going to go on with my business. Or if you want to give it some effort and say, okay, they're not coming back just for the sake of coming back. They're coming back because there's more to be revealed. And now with the distance, the space, and the less shock of them as they pop in out of nowhere, you're like, okay, I've seen this before, and okay, not a big deal. It'll be a bit easier for you to inquire as to what's the deal. What's the deal with this recurring situation or theme or synchronicity in my life? You might find it just kind of natural and easy to conclude and resolve them. 5, kind of going back to what I was just explaining, more so the first part, where you're sort of revisiting issues that have been presenting themselves kind of, recently for you, the past few months or so, and there's that more distance, as I mentioned. You might discover that some of the conclusions that you conclude, and as you realize why they're there, it might be a little bit surprising, not what you would have expected. Because it's so, I'll just give an example. It's hard to articulate. I'll give an example. So I struggle with little mini addictions. Many of you know I used to have a really crippling addiction, heroin. I was a heroin addict about a decade ago. I overcame that just fine. But now I find myself easily slipping into little mini compulsions with junk food or checking my email way more than I need to, social media. Oh, how many likes did this thing get? Stupid stuff like that. And for the longest time, I thought it was I just need less of this stuff, less of the addictive things in my life. But what I just realized for myself, again, to give an example, is that I realized that it was something my mom just said to me recently. She mentioned, I was talking to her on the phone, she said that she always felt like the black sheep of the family. She was the rebellious one. All of her brothers and sisters were those all-star human beings, straight A's. They went off to college. My mom partied and stuff. So it just kind of clicked for me that she has a lot of guilt associated with all these little things that aren't inherently bad, like eating ice cream or whatever, stuff like that. It's not inherently horrible, but when there's guilt involved, that breeds addiction and compulsion and sort of a neurotic relationship with it. So I kind of had my own discovery about that with for a lot of my awakening, I struggled with smoking weed. I would always get kind of compulsive with it. I quit. I stopped smoking about a month ago, and not that I'm going to go back because I feel better without it, but I realize now, because this synchronicity just kept coming back up, and I'm I quit. It's gone, man. What's the deal? And I kind of just put it all together. And again, the conclusion wasn't that marijuana's bad. It was that you had a dysfunctional relationship with it because your mom did, and you just inherited that same way of relating with it, with guilt, it being wrong and bad, and taking you off your path. Whether that be the case or not is irrelevant. But again, that was sort of surprising to me. So you might have, again, conclusions of issues. So just be open to what the real root cause might be. Again, it might surprise you. So number 6, this is kind of going back to a metaphor that I used in a recent update where I said it's time to get in the river. The river, the proverbial river, meaning step onto the path you came to walk, step into the role you came to play, which many times is quite contrary to the role you've been playing, the path you've been walking. It's very different, and though exciting, it can be kind of scary and intimidating. I'm saying the way the energies are, it's time to freaking jump in that river, jump into that role. Even if you feel a little bit unprepared and unready, it's time to do so. Now, the point of this is that was sort of the energy back then. Now it's kind of like, okay, I'm willing to. I will jump in this river, but there's a lot of loose ends I have to tie up prior to doing that. It's not as simple as just leaping and then falling with a 3-second free fall into the water, and there you are, you're in the river. No, there's like a bunch of shit to do prior to even being able to approach that river. Right now, we're sort of climbing down this long staircase to get to the river. And meanwhile, we're like unloading stuff. We're going back up the steps to kind of to clean up messes and put out fires that we might have left. And that's kind of where the whole physical aspect comes in. We're getting ready to take this jump, a lot of us anyway. A lot of us are really ready to step into our role as a real light bearer on the planet. But again, we have to deal with the fallout and the consequences of living a life quite unconsciously, and it can involve a lot of stuff you have to do prior to being able to jump in that beautiful river. But that's okay. That's not a reason to get upset or anything because there's a minor delay. It's the energies will support that. So embrace that and tie up those loose ends because they'll be tied up rather quickly. Even if right now they might seem a little bit like overwhelming because as you become aware of all the loose ends and all the stuff you got to deal with prior to doing what you really want to do, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way, but then it's like move on. Don't dwell in like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Have the overwhelm come and then boom, get to work. And as you get to work, you will see things come together very quickly. Number 7 sort of ties in with number 6. It was like, for me anyway, like within the last week or so, for an example, we're getting ready to move. And as we are getting ready to have pictures taken of this house, as we go around, we realize how many little things need work. Like, I had this like 3-year-old puppy, or this dog who like chewed up all the walls, and I have 3 kids, and little like cords on our blinds are missing, and little things like that. But there's like just so many, and for the longest time, for like all last week, we were like putting in work and energy, and it was just very frustrating because it felt like we weren't really getting anywhere. The more we fixed, the more we realized needed fixing. And it just seemed like our deadline to get these pictures taken of our house was just never going to be met. And it was a lot of stress and like just feeling exhausted and like overwhelmed. But now I believe this full moon, we'll start to sort of, not just me and my little house, but it's a metaphor for you guys as well, but start to feel like we're, like the beginning stages of things coming together will start to sort of manifest. That overwhelm and like piles of things to do, even though they might have some stuff to do still, you might find that, it's coming together. It really felt like for a while we were just spinning our wheels, but you'll get some traction now and you'll experience that. And it feels very good because then it changes your whole perspective on life. Because then that river that you're so desperate to jump into seems plausible again. You're like, okay, I'm getting closer to that river. I'm making it down the stairs, and that river, I can hear it. It's roaring faster, and I'm getting closer. And I look back, and it's nice and clean and fresh. All the stuff I've sort of tidied up, and you feel lighter and better. You might start to kind of slip into that, have that sort of energy and experience with this full moon. But it might have been a little bit nutty prior to it. But this full moon would be a little bit of a turning point. Again, like job well done. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to kind of leave you with this little side note because I get a lot of messages from people who are from a place of desperation and concern that there's something they're missing, there's something they need to know, there's something they're not doing. A lot of people become worried about the fact that they're still exhibiting habits and behaviors that are not really in alignment with their perception of what a light worker, how a light worker should be conducting themselves. I just want to let you guys know that you can trust your life's path. That's a choice you always have, and it only takes a little bit of recollecting your life up until this point for validity and proof of that position. Your life is unfolding as it's supposed to, as you planned it to. There really is never anything to worry about, ever. And you always have the capability, if you choose to use it, to tap in to a part of you that always knows that. There's a part of you that's just waiting to be tapped into, that you've already done probably many times, that just knows it's all okay. It's all well. It's all kind of just a game anyway. It's not that big of a deal. You're not going to be late. You're not going to miss anything. You're going to get to where you want to go. And when you finally get there, it's going to be a gazillion times more awesome than you could have even possibly imagined. All this challenge and craziness we're going through is just kind of an illusion, a projection to help you realize that it's all a projection. And then when you really wake up to that, then you realize how much of an influence you have on this game we call reality, we call life. So don't fret, don't sweat it. You're all doing perfectly. Perfectly. That's it, guys. I wish you all well. I wish you all an amazing, beautiful weekend. And it is just an honor to talk to you guys so frequently, to hear some of the amazing comments, and just the feedback I get from you is so heartwarming. I have to sort of rip myself away, because at any time I could look and see, like, wow, there's a bunch of people leaving these beautiful, heartfelt comments, and it can be almost addicting. But anyway, thank you guys. You guys are seriously awesome. I wish you well. I have nothing but love in my heart for all of you. Namaste. Peace.